Phew, yes.
Okay, we're back, we're live, we're here after a technical break, I'd call that. And now, and through the magic of our technical break, you gotta look at the bright side. We have Ray Starling. Hi, Ray.
Hi, Ray.
Jay.
Ray's our third co-host.
Sharon?
Hawaii Energy. Hi, Ray.
Yeah, so Steve
Steve.
Tabor joins us from San Francisco by Skype, which
Hi,
is
Ray.
giving it little fits today, but. And this is Ray Starling, and he is the manager, what do you call it, executive director of Hawaii Energy, right? What's your title?
Energy Efficiency and Conservation Agency for Hawaii. Yeah.
Okay, he runs it. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, so let me just Ray, we're talking about the project that Princeton Energy Group is doing in Molokai.
Okay.
And Steve Tabor is the CEO, and they're creating systems that will support the grid there. And I'll let Steve tell you more, but we have lots of questions, so join in the question fest. So Steve, are you putting equipment on the grid, or is it merely a question of batteries? Are you putting photovoltaic in also? What are you actually, adding to the system in Molokai?
Well, in phase one, we are building a photovoltaic field and a battery system and a state-of-the-art plant controller. And we will interconnect at one point through one bus bar with the MECO system, and then all of that electricity and all of those grid stabilization resources will be delivered into the grid at that one point at the power station, and then MECO will deliver it through the power lines to the customers.
Okay, and the community is in agreement with the project, specifically the location of the PV farm, the location of the battery?
Not unanimously, but the overwhelming majority of the people in Molokai support the project.
Okay, where are you on the permitting process?
The permitting process is fairly straightforward. We've been in discussions. Our EPC contractor we're in discussions with S&C Construction to be our EPC contractor, and they're handling the permitting. But by and large, it's a pretty straightforward process. The land is appropriate for the use, so we don't have to go through an extensive rezoning or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. How about at the PUC level?
Well, we're in discussions with MECO right now, and they're, we really regard this as a partnership with the utility. The utility, utilities, everybody loves to hate them, but really, MECO is working very hard to make the grid on Molokai responsive to the community. So I give the utility some credit there. So we're in discussions with them, and we really regard them as our partners in trying to make this project work well for the people on Molokai.
What's the total cost of the project you contemplate, Steve?
That's confidential. I'm sorry, I can't.
Understood. Okay, no problem.
But you're expecting, or the community is expecting, that once you're operational in 2016, that their rates will go down because of the PV being the basis, the utility PV being the basis for now a lot of generating of their electricity. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct, Sharon. The PUC, you asked about the PUC, Jay. The PUC has made it abundantly clear to people like us, private power plant developers, that it's all about rate relief, and they have pushed hard on those projects on Oahu and the projects on Maui to get the prices down. Diesel is an expensive fuel, and so if you're running a grid on diesel, prices tend to be pretty high, but the PUC doesn't want private developers beating that price by a penny or two. They want real substantial rate savings. Mm-hmm. There's also the Department of Consumer Advocates, Jeff Ono's group, and they really scrutinize projects which come in to the PUC very closely. So there's a lot of pressure on us to get our costs down.
Can you say how much you'll be selling the energy to the grid for?
I'm sorry, Jay, I can't. But once we are in discussions right now with MECO, and we expect those discussions to be concluded pretty quickly. Certainly before the end of the year. And when they're concluded, then those prices will go to the PUC, then they'll be public, everybody can look at them and everybody can compare them to what else they're paying and decide for themselves if it's a good deal.
Sorry, Sharon, I interrupted. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna, after we discuss your project, I also wanted to follow up on one of Steve's comments. That there's a lot going on Molokai in the energy space, and it wasn't that way when we spoke to you several years back. So what has changed, and what is the lay of the land now that you said, was really transformed, I guess, on Molokai? Lots more happening.
Sure. Well, people on Molokai are taking their future into their own hands. I mean, Molokai has the highest level of rooftop solar penetration, I believe, of anywhere in the United States. It's there are times. I mean, they're getting about 12% of their annual electricity just from the rooftops, 10 to 12%. And there are times during the year when they're getting, for an hour or two here and there, where they're getting as much as 50% of their electricity from the rooftop. So, hats off to the community. They're not waiting for, us or somebody else to come riding to the rescue. They're taking their future into their own hands and devising solutions. There's also some very good rooftop installers. I probably shouldn't be plugging anybody, but there's some very good rooftop installers active on Molokai. And it's a pretty sophisticated environment from the point of view of understanding how energy works. And then there's also, I'm sorry, Jay.
Yeah, it just occurs to me that right now you have a lot of PV there anyway, and you have the baseline through the diesel generators that are there, that have been there. But what it sounds like, in order to get into this environment, in order to make this work, pursuant to the expectations of the people in Molokai and the PUC, you're going to have to deliver electricity to the grid cheaper than both the diesel and the existing rooftop installations. Am I right? So that's why the facility, the farm facility, presumably that is more efficient than rooftop one by one.
Well, I would agree with you partly. We certainly have to be cheaper than diesel, but the rooftop solar, that is kind of, how can I say, part of the environment, if you will. When the rooftop is on, that's the first energy which goes to load. So if somebody in their home in Molokai, charges their electric vehicle or turns on their TV, if energy is coming off of their rooftop, that's the first energy which goes to satisfy that. So if our PV field over there in west of Kaunakakai happens to be generating electricity right at that point, and the grid doesn't need that electricity, that's our tough luck. And that's why we have such a big battery, because we come second in line after all of that rooftop. And so if we have too much electricity during the day that the grid doesn't need, that's why we have the battery. We put it into the battery because we're pretty confident. We've done a lot of research on this, Jay, and we've determined that the sun does not shine at night. So when we
all you had to do was call me, I would have told you.
When we put electricity into the battery, that's why the battery's there. Then we can take that electricity out at night and put it into the grid, and that's when the grid really needs it.
Well, who makes the battery that you contemplate using? Now, we had one battery maker here for, where was it, Kahuku, where the thing went up in toxic flames. That was an extreme battery, and extreme isn't around anymore. I wonder what the battery manufacturing sector is like these days, where you can feel confident that the battery or batteries you're going to use for the 2 megawatt battery array will not suffer the same fate.
All right, that's actually a very good question, and it's one that we spent a lot of time thinking about. Our battery, by the way, is 6 megawatts. The HNEI battery is I believe, 2 megawatts or 2.5.
Yeah.
But ours is a big one. But to answer your question, the companies that have crashed and burned in the battery space, like Extreme and A123, they were primarily lead acid batteries, and that technology has really been bypassed by lithium ion. Our batteries are lithium ion batteries, and they don't burst into flames. If they did, you would have flames going off in your pocket all the time because it's a lithium-ion battery in your cell phone, and in your laptop and your iPad and all that kind of stuff. They're very safe. We haven't chosen our manufacturer yet, but the two manufacturers that we're considering for this are both publicly traded companies with billion-dollar balance sheets. So when they give us a warranty, we can be very confident that that warranty is that they can honor that warranty and that it's a reliable battery. I don't want to gloss over that. Anytime you're dealing with advanced technology, there are risks, and on very, very, very rare occasions, lithium-ion batteries do catch fire, but it's extremely rare. And it's like it happened, I think, once in a Tesla car. But for our system, the battery bank is designed with multiple safety features and fire suppression systems. So we have cooked all of the risk out of our battery bank.
So let me just understand on a schematic basis where the battery fits in the existing system. You have the grid, a connection. You said a one-point connection with the grid. You have the solar array, the farm that you're building,
Right.
and then you have homeowners that have photovoltaic on their roofs. And I'm just guessing now, but I would guess that the battery that you're putting in will be at the point of connection to the grid, and it will, I guess, be on that side of things, and it will take energy from the farm, and it will take energy from the individual homeowners, and hold that power, energy, I guess, and then return it to the grid when necessary. Schematically, where does it fit?
Let me clarify that. So we have our photovoltaic field, and we have our battery bank, and they sit next to each other, and they both interconnect through a single point to the grid.
Yeah.
So when we deliver electricity to the grid and MECO and the customers don't really know or care whether it comes from our photovoltaic field or comes from our battery. But we put it into the grid, then MECO from their power plant, using our electricity for either from our solar or from our battery, plus the electricity that they generate in their diesel gensets, they put the electricity out into the grid, and it goes out to meet the consumer's needs. Then the consumer, where they have some of them have solar on their roof, so they can take electricity either from their panels or from the grid, depending on what makes the most sense for them. Now, we have not yet worked out with MECO whether or not our battery bank will also take over generation from people's rooftop systems. For now, what happens with those, if a rooftop photovoltaic system over-generates, which is to say, if it generates in the middle of the day when the homeowner can't use the electricity, the homeowner is allowed to push that electricity back out into the grid, and then MECO takes responsibility for it, and they deliver it to some other customer. But this gets into this whole controversy about net metering, that as more and more net metering customers come onto the grid, it's harder and harder for the utility to maintain it. And right now, I think the legislature and the governor and the PUC and the utilities and the community on all the islands, they're all wrestling with this issue of how you handle net metering. So that's another whole show. I imagine you probably had a show or two on that.
We have, and some people say that net energy metering is going away. But that's an economic question. At the end of the day, you need batteries, unless you want to run the diesel all night. You need batteries to light the homes, and I guess my question is: you made calculations, the 6 megawatts and plus the 2 megawatts for HNEI, is that enough to light? What part of Molokai can you light with those batteries overnight in the present configuration?
Well, we figure it on an annual basis, and on an annual basis, the 12%, 10 to 12% coming from the rooftop and the 40 to 50% coming from our system will get on an average annual basis somewhere around half of the electricity on the island will come from solar. And remember, that's our phase one. Phase two will get us up closer to 100%.
Okay, that means that solar plus the battery will provide roughly half of the electricity required, the demand on Molokai, 24/7.
Yeah, that's correct. And then the rest of it, until we get phase two done, the rest of it will still come from diesel.
Yes, and phase two goes to 100%.
We're going to push as close as we can get to 100%. That's a very ambitious goal, but that's our goal. I mean, that's what the legislature has set, and Hawaii's going to get there one way or another by 2045. Our goal is to get Molokai there by maybe 2020.
And that means ramping up the same kind of system. More PV on more roofs and more PV farms and more batteries. And then if you just keep on repeating that, to higher levels, you will be able theoretically to achieve 100%, right?
That's correct. That's exactly correct. But I think it's kind of probably not more the same. It's probably all of the above, as President Obama says. It's probably lots more rooftop, but it's also probably a lot of community solar, probably a lot more batteries, a lot more energy efficiency. And Ray, your colleague Kate was here before, and I was applauding what you're doing because energy efficiency is absolutely critical to getting to 100% renewables. Plus demand response, vehicle fleet electrification. It's probably a whole range of strategies, and none of them by themselves could get us to anywhere close to 100%. But all of them together, with all the different minds and all the different good ideas all working together, that's what I think makes 100% renewable energy or 100%.
Well, the problem I see is that phase one, you have the benefit of the federal tax credits, which are going to expire in 2016. And I mean, I don't know what the probability of a continuation is, may not be that good. So, you can do phase one with the benefit of these tax. I'm sure you've factored that into your numbers.
Sure.
But then phase two, you're not going to necessarily have those tax credits. What happens to phase two when you still got to compete with fossil fuel and other systems? What happens?
Well, that's a very good question. First of all, fossil fuel, even if you set aside the environmental effects of fossil fuel economically, to our way of thinking, is not a good long-term strategy. Nico right now diesel prices are down, so power prices are down in Hawaii quite substantially over what they were 2 or 3 years ago. But Miko projects the cost of diesel to start rising a year or two from now and really rise for the next 15, 20 years at a faster rate than inflation. So, we really believe very strongly that fossil fuels is not a good long-term strategy. Hawaii has basically one major primary industry, and that's tourism. We make about $12 billion a year in Hawaii on tourism because people from all over the world want to come to Hawaii and enjoy the aloha spirit, enjoy this beautiful land. And yet, we then take about half that much, about $6 billion, and ship it back overseas for our petroleum bill. And that's crazy because Hawaii is so rich in renewable energy. Forgive me for getting on the soapbox, Jay. Is so rich in renewable energy, we really should be self-sufficient in energy. So to answer your question, I think that yes, the federal subsidy is going to go away, but panel prices are going to continue to come down. Battery prices are going to continue to come down. And as we just talked about with Kate, energy efficiency is an extremely good deal for the customers. It's the cheapest. There's nothing you can do to generate energy which costs less than what it costs to save energy. And that's why Ray's and Kate's program, I think, is so important to the future of Hawaii.
Ray, what would you say in
Wow,
response to
Ray.
that?
He's got it.
He's got it. He's got it.
Can you come back next week and do the megawatt moment for us?
So what's your time, Steve, and timing? You haven't actually put a spade in the ground yet on this.
Nope.
When are you going to get it together?
Well, we have to get it done by the end of 2016, and that means that we got to really hustle over the next 16 months. We've got to have to get through our discussions with MECO so that we can get our business arrangements in place. Then we have to get through the Public Utilities Commission process, and there were some projects solar projects for Oahu, which just got through the PUC approval process. It took about 7 months, and then we have to build. Now we can build these things pretty fast. Solar plants these days, not rooftop systems, but large-scale solar plants these days, you don't build them, you manufacture them in factories, and so they come to the site, mostly assembled and pretty much ready to go in. So we can build this thing pretty fast. But having said that, there's a heck of a lot of work to do in the next 16 months, so we're working all the time.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
No, you got any more on this? Because I want to tell you a short story about diesel that I heard this morning.
Okay.
Now, you know that Volkswagen is in deep kimchi
Yeah.
over diesel. And very interesting, that now we are looking at Europe, where this all kind of happened. And we find a story on on National Public Radio this morning that the governments of Europe were encouraging diesel starting about 1997. And in the past, 15, 16 years, the number of cars in Europe that are diesel has increased by incredible amounts. And now 50 or 55% of all the cars in Europe are diesel cars. That's not the case here in the U.S., because in the U.S. we sought to avoid carbon emissions by making all the gas cars, regular petroleum cars, lower emissions, okay? That's the difference. Come to find on this discussion on NPR this morning that although carbon emissions certainly, produce problems in the environment, diesel fuel produces another kind of problem. It's the particulate problem, which is actually harmful to human health. And one of the issues that came up today in this story was that the governments of Europe, when they encouraged car makers to do diesel cars, knew about the particulates as a health problem and did it anyway. And that's a sort of secondary scandal over what has emerged in the Volkswagen crisis. So what I'm saying is, if you have diesel plants on Molakai, and for that matter Lanai, that are still operating, it's more than just carbon emissions. It's particulates too. Double whammy. So we got to get away from that stuff as soon as we can.
We do. I should say that MECO is very fastidious about complying with the air quality regulations on Molokai, and all the HEI utilities are. So I don't think we need to worry in Hawaii, or for that matter in California, where I am, about getting sick from air pollution. But there are certainly parts of the world where those they call them NOx, SOx, and ROx. NOx is nitrogen oxygen oxides, SOx is sulfur oxides, and ROx are the particulates. And they are very serious health problems in many parts of the world. Anybody who's been to Beijing lately will know it's not a
So is this your only project, Steve, or is this one of 200 projects you're working on simultaneously?
Somewhere in between those two extremes. We're a small group. Now, we're very picky about the projects we work on. We like to work on projects which get us excited about going to work in the morning, and this definitely fits that bill. But we do have some other things going on, other interesting projects. We're working with a number of high-tech firms coming out of Israel right now that are offering some very interesting technologies. So we've got a lot of things going on, but we are a small group, and we like the lifestyle, I guess, which goes with this kind of work.
Okay, well, I think we're just about out of time.
We're going to call you back in 2016 to find out what's happening with Molakai Energy.
Okay.
We have to follow the story.
Yeah, good story.
Molakai is like the canary in the coal mine.
Well, Molakai is, they're a leader in renewable energy in Hawaii and the United States right now, and so I think this is very fitting. And this is a great place to do this project.
Yes. Ray, I know you were only here for half the show.
Well, this was great.
But I
He
just
liked
wanted
the energy
to
efficiency.
summarize, if you will, and try to make sense of this in the larger landscape. Go.
Well, Steve, best of luck to you, and we'll be watching you, and we'd like to have you come back and fill us in on how things go. But I like your thoughts, you know, that energy efficiency is the #1 thing you do, and then everything else becomes a lot easier, less expensive, less costly, less emissions, and so forth. So we're happy to be the first step in the process that you're going through now. So good luck.
Thanks very much, Ray. I appreciate it.
Sharon, you have anything to add?
No, I think I like what you're doing there, and it's nice to see that Molakai is progressing and now becoming #1 in the nation, and thanks to the kind of work that you're doing. So we look forward to hearing your progress and
Okay,
achievements.
thanks, Chair.
Yeah,
Thanks.
interesting that you take them to a new place. Good for you, good for them. Thank you so much, Steve Tabor, CEO, Princeton Energy Group. And give our regards to Kumiko Yoshinari, too.
Yes, thank you
Aloha.
so much.
Aloha.
Aloha.